webinar that we've been doing for the last couple of years. I thank Nadia, I thank EJ, and thank all of our supporters. Today, we thought that we would have one of the previous speakers on, and he did a wonderful job. And I'll start the video. It's a recording of him. We thought we would look at what he has been saying and utilizing as his role and his part in stopping the violence in America through the Lansing correctional facilities in Lansing, Kansas. His name is Mr. C.J. Hughes, and without any further introductions, why don't we roll the cameras?
All righty.
Just tell you something really quick about our guest speaker. His name is Mr. C.J. Hughes. He is the executive director of Brothers in Blue Reentry Program at Lansing Correctional Facility in Lansing, Kansas. His topic today is bringing transformational hope to the incarcerated while in prison and after their release. Let me tell you just a little bit about Mr. Hughes. The vision of the Brother in Blue Reentry to provide Christ-based instruction, restoration, and counseling to transform the hearts, minds, and communities of the incarcerated. Purpose to assist in incarcerated individuals with a huge process that begins while they are in prison, and extend beyond their release. This change will allow them to become responsible leaders in their family, churches, communities upon release. So we're happy to have our brother here, C.J. Hughes, and we'd like to hear from you about the incredible work that you're doing in the prison system and the whole aspect of recidivism. Welcome. By the way, my name is Reverend Zachary Oliver. I know I didn't get a chance to meet you prior because you just came on, and I'm your host here, and we have a variety of other people here eager to hear your story. Welcome.
Well, thank you, Reverend Oliver, and it's great to meet you and to everybody on the call. I really appreciate the opportunity just to come on and continue to have this conversation with like-minded individuals around the importance of opportunity when it comes to incarcerated individuals and reducing risk and recidivism.
Yes. So tell us a little bit about what you do, how you got started, and what's your best practices, and how, the results that you have been getting from this program.
Of course. Yeah. So as you said in the intro there, we're Brothers Blue Reentry is a faith-based nonprofit that works in the reentry space and in collaboration with the Kansas Department of Corrections. We specifically work in Lansing Correctional Facility, which is the largest prison in Kansas on the men's side, and then also Topeka Correctional Facility, which is the only women's facility in Kansas. And really what we focus on, just to boil it down into a nutshell, what we focus on is putting opportunities in front of people who have very rarely been able to have them in the past. And when I say opportunities, I mean all kinds of opportunities, from being able to take classes, to skill building, to resume building, to mindset change, everything above. And then also, once they're released, to be able to put resource opportunities in front of them, whether that be in the form of clothes, electronics, telephone, laptops, those types of things, employment, transportation, being able to put those things in front of them and letting them, to be able to work through and choose kind of what's best for them. I think so many times when we look at reentry, we can look at it from a cookie cutter point of view, where, just because reentry worked this way for this person, that it'll work this way for all people. And I think that reentry is a very individualized subject. everybody has their own problems, their own barriers, their own challenges, and reentry needs to be tailored as much as we possibly can to that individual's barriers and problems and even weaknesses and strengths and how that works to give them the best chance of success. And that's how we believe it can really be different at Brothers in Blue, because there's with the recidivism problem, for those that don't know, nationally, depending on which report you look at, is anywhere between 68 and 72%, which means 1 out of 3 or 1 out of 4 or 3 out of 4 come back to prison upon release nationally. And that those type of numbers are just unsustainable. In Kansas, they're a little bit more program minded and are able to allow some things such as our program to be able to come in and several others, but they also do things through the KDOC itself to help with skill building and to push opportunities forward for a successful reentry. So their recidivism is half the national average, generally runs between 33 and 36%. And so with our approach and our programming, which I'll get into a little bit more detail here in just a second, we average anywhere between 11 and 13% recidivism. So that means 1 out of every 10 of our members that get out and complete the program come back to prison, which the way I like to say that is 9 out of 10 get out and don't come back to prison.
Great. Please continue.
Yeah. So just continuing on, the way we do that in Brothers in Blue is we really focus on 3 phases. And so the first phase is going to really focus on mindset change and, being able to work through, some of the traumas and things that they've experienced in the past. Trauma healing is a huge part of, working through the incarceration problem. So many times they've never even had an opportunity to talk about their trauma, let alone work through it. And so, giving them that opportunity in phase 1, we work through classes. They go to classes 5 days a week, where we're talking about these subjects, specifically trauma influenced, subjects around, family, the way they look at money, financial aspects, the way that they deal with spirituality, all of these different things, through the lens of trauma and things that they've experienced. So that's for a full year. They work through that for a full year. Each quarter we change the classes, and so they get a new class, and it's a set schedule going all the way through. And so it's really focused, and they go through as a group. So we have groups that go through, and that way they can go through in an environment of like-minded individuals, because the prison is not conducive to change, is not conducive to being able to certainly not hold other people accountable, let alone hold yourself accountable. The prison mentality is very much against that, and you're snitching or telling or any of these other negative things that the prison environment will try to label you with. And so the Kansas Department of Corrections allows us to put those members into their own living situation. Now they're still deal with general population, of course, and we have general population in our own pod, but it creates an environment where people can change and people can look at things differently without being necessarily subject to or having to live within the prison mindset, which is extremely damaging, extremely trauma, the opposite of trauma influenced. So it's trauma causing is the way we look at that. So they go through that first year in that type of environment in a group together, so that they can, we have discussion groups as a part of those classes, so that they can go through it and be able to tell their story, and to be able to have paid counselors that they can also come to as well, as a part of the program. So that's what we focus on, is that mindset change. In phase 2, we start putting more opportunities out there that are individualized, and not so much group based, where they can start to form, their story moving forward. What does this really look like? And we're not talking about, like, for example, employment. What do you want to do, the rest of your life? And we're not talking about what your mom wants you to do, or what, your guys over here that you're with, what your friends want you to do, or what society says you should do. What do you want to do? And building that around what they're passionate about. Because one of the things that we've found is if we tie in what somebody's passionate about with their employment somehow, they're far more willing to get up on Monday and go to that job, right? And so that's a big thing, is that being able to tie in the passion part to their employment. We found great success with that. And so that's what, in phase 2, being able to have all these conversations about, the future, what these things look like. They still take a few classes to continue to build. We want to always have that continuing education happening to try to instill that routine in their mindset, in their lives, that, we're never really at the finish line, right? We're continuously, it's an everyday battle. We're continuously building on ourselves. And so, to work through that. And then the second part of phase 2 is advanced practice, taking what we learned in phase 1 and actually starting to implement that, because there's, while it sounds kind of weird, it sounds silly, but there is no correlation between knowing and actually doing. So many people know things and never actually implement them, never actually do them. And so that's what we really focus on in the counseling sessions and things like that, is all these concepts that we learned, from all these different classes. How can we actually take that out and live it out in our lives? Because that's the other problem. So many people that are incarcerated, not just in Kansas, mind you, this is all over the world. So many people, they look forward to that release day, right? And all the things that they're working towards is, okay, cool, I'm going to do that, once I release and get out, man, I'm going to do this, and this. The problem is we all have to practice, right? Like, we have to walk before we run. And so these mindset things, what we're encouraging our membership to do here in Kansas, in Lansing, is we're going to do that while you're still incarcerated. You can affect the environment positively in this prison, and then, sure, can you do that in your community? Absolutely. But you can do that here. Don't wait. Let's do it now, so that we can continue to have, conversations around that. So that way, when they bump their head, we can have they have people, they have support there that we can have conversations and talk about and be able to work through those things. So that's our phase 2. And then phase 3 is our reentry. That's 1 year to release. So as soon as they hit 1 year to release, and then they stay on our caseload for a year after release. And so we have a situation that we have full-time staff that work with them on their release, that we're getting down to the nitty-gritty. We're creating a release plan, relapse prevention plans, leisure time plans, all of those different things. We're working on employment, housing, planning all of this out to where they're walking out with a plan, with a strategy in mind. And we really believe, and then we stay with them a year after release. So they stay on our caseload for a 2-year period there in phase 2, with their release day sandwiched right in the middle. What we found is that, in reentry, to be able to walk out with a plan, to walk out with a strategy, and it doesn't always go as planned, right? We have plan A, B, and C, and so on. But to be able to walk out with a plan is critical. It's critically important. I mean, it sounds simple, but so many times it doesn't happen with incarceration. People, get out, they get their gate money, and $50 or $100 and a bus ticket, and off they go. Go see your parole officer. And so much of the reentry conversation has fallen on our parole officers all over the country, which is an extremely difficult situation for a parole officer who generally already has a huge caseload, to try to also deal with all the reentry aspects of things. And so focusing on that, what we've done is created an idea of reentry circles. And so what we mean by that is parole is absolutely involved, but then there's also a circle of people that come around these folks that get out that can, assist them or help them or mentor them, when they say they haven't got a vehicle yet, they need a ride to the store or they need a ride to work. Well, then it's not just on one person. That certainly can't be the parole officer. Our staff, can't even do that all the time, as far as giving rides to everybody. That's all we'd ever do, right? So we're not gonna do that either, but we're gonna have reentry circles to where we can all talk and communicate and come around these folks and then be able to provide them with these opportunities, but where it doesn't always fall on just one person. We, being a faith-based organization, of course, we work with churches and other supporting agencies in the area to be able to do that, which we're extremely grateful for. So, it's definitely, it takes a village, takes a group of folks to be able to do those things. But, pretty much anywhere can put those types of resources together in a simple way that we found and a collaborative effort. And so that way, every person that gets out, when the rubber really meets the road, they have those resources and those opportunities put in front of them. So, and another big thing that we found is, in our overall, with phase 1, phase 2, and phase 3, so many times, folks will, they'll get out and maybe have some resources, or they will, participate in positive things inside the prison. And so you'll have the heart change, or you'll have the resources. And the way we believe it can be different is it's got to be both. They've got to have the opportunity for heart change, and then they've also got to have an opportunity at the actual resources when the rubber meets the road, when things get tough, to be able to have those things there. And so that's kind of the way this program was designed, is to be able to give them the opportunity at both. I started with the program as the executive director in 2017. I was on the board of directors before that, to be able to help steer the program and where we were going. But what I now thank God for it, and what kind of gives me a unique perspective is in 2006 I was a member of the program. So I dealt with incarceration myself, and having the, and at the time, of course, which if any of you are familiar with the, Hebrews and in chapter 12, it talks about how nobody likes the punishment, right? I did not like the punishment. Like, it was not fun. I wasn't thanking God going through that. But it's so funny that now I thank God, because that gave me a really unique perspective to be a member and to go through it on that side of things. And then to now be in the same program on the staff side of things, it's really a unique way to understand the problem in general and some of the individual problems overall that our members face. And so, I didn't then, but I'm working, forward to that, to finish that verse up, that harvest of righteousness that Hebrews talks about there. After that punishment that we don't like so much. So I thank God for that now, and being able to go through that. I did 6 years total incarcerated. 4 years of it was in this program, and changed my life. It changed my life, and it gave me the opportunities that I have now, which aren't just employment. That's only one side of it. And just like many nonprofit leaders know, almost anybody who works in a nonprofit can go to the private sector and make more money, right? Like, that's not what it's about. Much more working on staff is being able to give back and make sure that the next generation of people have the same opportunities I did. And so that's really where my heart is, going forward, and working on these particular problems.
Mr. Hughes, thank you. That's one of the most comprehensive. Thank you. So let's open up for a discussion. It's excellent to go over these again, to hear it again, because it gives you much more insight, and also realize that you missed something, and you gain a little bit more by listening to him. And I think I'm a creature of habit, because I said what I was going to say. I heard myself say, what a comprehensive program.
Yeah.
And I was getting ready to say the same thing. I was a creature of habit. Yeah. So one of the things that I like to open up for discussion, the reality, not only practical programs and um, techniques that are used to uh, help with this whole changing of people's mindsets, but as he puts it, and it's a change really of heart set,
Mm.
right? The change of heart. The revolution is not a revolution of mind, but a revolution of our hearts changing. And once your heart changes, then you're on that whole trajectory going upward, not impeded by, all of the traumas and stuff that um, have kept you down, but then have the ability to navigate them in a proper manner and a proper attitude that he used today. But I think one of the central points that he brought it up again at the conclusion, is the changing of the hearts of humanity. And another things that he did say that I gleaned again was trauma. And we don't think about the type of trauma that prior to going to prison that they have. They might be tough-skinned, these guys, but actually somehow they have gone through some trauma in their lives. And now you see where they are.
Mhm.
But also to go through the prison system is another dosage of trauma that they are engaging with, and have to repress, and don't know how to express that trauma, the stress, if you will, to survive, the stress to put facades on in order to survive, in itself. That's trauma. And I was I thought he was correct when he said that. That really made sense to me. And then his last, the mindset is a critical component, and a mindset is dangerous. If you have the wrong mindset, you can do anything. But if you have the right mindset, and you can switch or recalibrate your thinking to a positive way, a positive outlook, that too plays a critical role in the changes that you can make in your lives and the lives of your family and your community. And so he had those three components, dealing with the number one, the trauma, two, dealing with the individual. And I like what he said, that one size does not fit all. And the important component would be to look at, as a group, different groups and different categories, different individuals, and see how we can tailor that to help them deal with their unique situation that plays a critical part in their misbehaving. And then the whole reentry process was number three. So I just open up the floor. Nadia, did you want to say something?
Yeah, I'd love to. These people are saints. The work that they're doing is incredible. And if you recall, there are several people that are connected here. The former and current, actually, mayor of Leavenworth, Kansas, was part of this program.
Wow.
Yeah, Jermaine Wilson, Mayor Jermaine
Yes,
Wilson, that
absolutely.
came
Yeah.
on. Yeah, he was part of this Brothers in Blue program.
Yeah.
And then our friend Reverend VJ he also had a prison ministry. I think a lot of these people have a prison ministry besides everything else that they're doing. But I remember him talking about his prison ministry, and he would go once a week with his friend, Reverend John or Pastor John Turnipseed, and they would talk to these guys, just sincerely, and they would say, right now we're kind of taking care of your family, but you guys need to do the work in here right now so that when you get out that you can take care of your family. So they gave them some kind of something to look forward to, which I think is, that I believe helps, unless they just don't care, but many times what we've seen with these people that get into trouble, they've got hopes and dreams just like everybody else, and if you give them a job and, if they want a job, number one, and you give them a job and it's decent, then they seem to take it and run with it. There are a couple of other things that struck me. He talked about snitching and telling. And I know that a lot of problems that law enforcement have out in the community when things happen, like especially in Minneapolis, we've got these mothers on Facebook, every anniversary that their child's murderer was not found, they remind everybody. And, it's like, you hear them saying things like, you guys know who did this. People in the community know, people that I know who killed my child, and you're not telling me. And now, so police have set up things, like anonymous call centers and stuff like that, where people can, but the thing is, it is really scary, because if people talk to each other in these communities, they find out who snitched, or maybe even, start a rumor of who snitched and got somebody, the finger pointed at them. They'll go after your family, and they are not, they're brutal. So it's really tough out there. It really, really is. But we've got some, like Reverend Dr. Bostic, and Reverend VJ, and some of these other people. They're really strong, and somehow they've got the spirit to be able to control this kind of nastiness that goes on and cut through it. And anyway, so I'm just really appreciative of these people, and just want to give John O'Connor kudos for going and talking with this guy John has Parkinson's. And Bill, you can correct me if I'm wrong. Is he still in surgery, or was that yesterday?
I should have called him, because I think it was about 2 days ago he was in surgery, and then
Okay.
he spent that night. So he should be home by now. But thanks for reminding me. I do need to get in touch with him.
Yeah, so this is kudos to John for finding this incredible man, and then everything linking up to the mayor and and others that I just really have a lot of respect for people that have the passion to do this, because I can't. I don't have, the gift. It's definitely a gift, and it's definitely I have the passion for it, but I just, I don't see myself I do other things, but I don't see myself affecting things like people like CJ Hughes does. So.
Thank you. Anyone else have any comments? One of the things he did say, thank you, Nadia, you were so correct. Numbers, statistics, and says a lot. It speaks volumes. And now that you made the association with Mayor Jermaine and the numbers that he shared with us, I believe it was the usual, probably national percentages of people going back and forth into prison, and recidivism was like, he says, from like 62 to 70%. But his program was down to 13%. That's incredible. That's impressive. So numbers speak loud. Yeah. Did you want to say something, Mary?
Yes, sorry, I couldn't find the little hand wave. I was very, very impressed by just the whole layout of the plan, the phases, and especially right at the beginning where he talked about recognizing that they people need to talk. They need to have somebody hear their story, and in order to heal the trauma that they have been through that have brought them to this phase or state of life they're in. And I thought that was very, very important to just start with that, and bring about the change of heart, or the change of their mind and heart, and so they're ready to take a new step in life, knowing that somebody actually cares. And I think that's profound, knowing that somebody cares, and then creating a supportive environment. Wow, that's very different than what they usually experience in prison. And I'm from Kansas, so I know a little bit about Lansing, and I'm very impressed and pleased to hear that they're making these awesome changes and giving people a chance to put a plan together and re-enter with some concrete plan, with a skill, and having learned these things. That's just the best use of money and time and effort, and with a recidivism rate down to 13, that's just incredible victory. So thank you. It's a wonderful program.
An actual plan that is categorized to cover all aspects of their preventing them from going back in.
Yeah.
And many times those planned out programs, or those programs, are not so well planned out, if you will. And one of the other things that he said that being sensitive enough to understand and to look for what are their passions. And it's true. If you can align their passion with their jobs and what they're looking to do in life, then that also reduces what I would call relapse,
Yes.
relapsing back into old behaviors, so that. Anyone else? Thank you, Mary, for that. That's true. Anyone else like to say something?
Yeah, I don't have so much of a statement as much as question. I really appreciate those who are investing themselves into helping the former inmates now reentering society. Here in Indianapolis, one of our ambassadors for peace, Reverend Ken Alexander, works at a company called Recycle Force. And that's a nonprofit that takes broken down electronics and whatnot and takes it apart and sends certain materials to different places for recycling. And the young men, and I don't know if there are women there, but there are definitely a lot of young men who have finished their prison sentence, and they're receiving training. And I really appreciate many people, such as the gentleman on the program and Reverend Alexander, not only just provide jobs for them or making certain they're following their parole requirements, but they're going above and beyond and offering counseling and the heart to assist those who are struggling. That, Nadia, as you say, that's a special calling. It's a very special mission or gift. My concern is what happens in prison. I don't really know so much, but I've often heard that prison increasingly is becoming a place where crime is being taught, it's being reinforced, and it's being, whatever you want to call it, advanced, or people are receiving the wrong kind of training. And I'm just wondering, to what extent could that be changed? I'm wondering is it because everybody's put into large groups just to minimize the need for employees? Or could more counselors, maybe one-on-one, or maybe some kind of a counselor having 2 or 3 people and kind of guiding them through their experience, would that be a better use of taxpayers' money to try to prevent, I don't know how to pronounce the word, recidivism from happening?
There's a battle, I think, in those systems, and I think she said it, and that is the trauma just to survive. And to, because it's like you already come in with bad behavior, traumatic attitudes and behaviors, and then it's compounded by more trauma of surviving within there. And then what are those traumas? And the first thing that I think is a big battle, as you watch these programs and you read stuff, is the enculturation of a whole prison culture that has actually becomes the norm.
Mm-hmm.
You
Right.
know,
Right.
within the
Reality's turned upside down.
completely, and that has to be addressed. All sorts of madness goes on in there. So I mean, your question is a good question, but it becomes I think the resilience of the good human nature, let me put it this way, is evident when people can still come out, and yes, if you do the right thing, as he was describing those programs, then that recidivism rate goes down dramatically. So we have to have faith and the resilience of our good nature in such an unholy environment, that you're stuck in that behind. There's nowhere to go. So you have to, like you said, the upside down culturation and norms, you have to abide by those things or just shut yourself off for a while. That kind of, so, yeah.
Well, this gentleman works for a private organization instead of a government agency. So I've often heard that prisons would probably work better if they were privatized. Have you ever seen any figures on that, or any background research as to the possibility of doing that?
It's two different things. That many times these prisons are privately owned and governmentally used because it's a money-making thing. That's what I hear.
What?
Yeah. Yeah. So it's very it's a lucrative business, I hear.
Oh my gosh.
So recidivism is actually a positive thing for certain people. What I'm hearing from other people to the pockets of so many people. So it benefits them for these guys to come in and out because they're getting hundreds of thousands of dollars per person. So yes, some prison systems institutions are, owned by the state, owned by the government, but many of them are also private. Yes, the challenge of, I think Andrea has something here too, but she says, yes, the challenge of privatization is that it is a big business. They like more prisoners. Yeah, that's what I heard. I didn't know it until recently too.
My goodness.
So it's a kind of a vicious cycle, don't you think?
Oh my God.
Because when you brought up VJ Smith, he had indicated that his nonprofit that he was doing, especially his major focus was helping these guys become responsible fathers after they leave the prison system. And he was having, too, a successful percentage of guys who did go home and start taking care of their children. He said that that was funded, and then all of a sudden, now that one was government funded. He got some funding from government. They dropped the funding. I don't know, why would you drop the funding when you see see the success rate of that? So this seemed like a vicious cycle, Bill.
Oh my word.
Hmm.
That's a
But
real eye opener.
go ahead. What were you saying?
I said that's a real eye opener that it's a big business. So it almost works against itself. I mean, to improve, to cut down on those returning. Hmm, wow.
Yeah, yeah,
What can you say?
yeah. So it's like it nature everywhere, huh?
Mm,
So how do we deal with that? But what still comes forefront to me is when you look at the numbers, the numbers don't lie. Uh, percentages don't lie, and so the resilience of our good nature still survives. And what he was saying through his program and then the other programs that we listen to, if you begin to re-nurture that, then you will see excellent results, impressive results. And let's not just say, let's say impressive results, coming from these people. I think it was someone said 2 minutes ago, you just don't see these guys, these people having dreams, but they do have dreams. And it's like the prison system and its upside down morality really kind of doesn't allow that kind of thinking, having dreams. They might put that in certain categories. No, you're not supposed to have that. I bet you it's tough there. Yeah. Anybody else have any comments on?
Mm.
Not a easy, but I think that what we were hearing from the various best practices, there are impressive results that are out there. And I think that one of our major forces, and I've been talking with BJ and other people to create that conference where we bring those best practices together. When he was talking about his program, I can see um, that fitting in with Mr. Bostic. He might have some extra pieces to put in the puzzle that Dr. Bostic has, to help even further embellish and bring forth a better result in their community and vice versa. Right. The Bostics, way of dealing with the gang members and giving them jobs. And I think a couple of others have talked about the necessity of having jobs. But what I do appreciate with him is the necessity first to change the mindset. And how do you do that? There's a concerted effort to change people's mindset and what kind of curriculum, what kind of education is needed to do that. But also, he also shared that it takes time to really listen to people, and not everybody's trauma or experiences fit in the same mold. You have to begin to look at what has caused this person to do this, what has caused that person to do this, and work in tandem with that. And that's where they have seen that they have the better results in helping facilitate people to begin to talk about their problems, and simultaneously to help people to begin to work on and be aware that I need to change my mind. Some people are not even aware, right? That they have to change their mindset,
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Good.
yeah, they're probably in survival mode, many of them. And I'm sure there's a lot of peer pressure
Hmm.
You know, oh, you're part of that group. Oh, you know, make fun of them and stuff like that. Just out of ignorance, because maybe that person or that group doesn't, you know,
Mhm.
you always got to make fun of people, you know what I mean? That kind of strange thinking.
As it, you're correct, and let's see what Andrea said.
Mhm.
And the peer pressure is powerful. That's
Mm.
powerful. Peer pressure is powerful when you can go home and leave and go in your own little domain and hide somewhere.
Mhm.
Imagine where you can't go somewhere to hide and having that peer pressure. What is amazing about this is from Andrea. What is amazing about all these guests with their best practices is their profound sense of humanity. That is true.
Mm.
Uh, the guys on the last week were really spirit filled in their brotherly love and desire to help. This man too. That verse says the utter lack of humanity in the big businesses, how to infuse humanity into humanity. Is the $64 million question. Huh?
Mm,
Yeah.
yeah. Wow.
And another thing, I really tried to pick Reverend VJ's brain. I'm like, what do you say to these guys to help them turn away from, you know, making a ton of money illegally to wanting to do, you know, good hard work and, you know, not make as much money? And he would say things, I didn't get much out of him, but the thing that he said was, he would say, you know, do you want to just keep looking over your shoulder, not knowing that this is your last day alive on earth? You know, he would say stuff like that to them,
Mm.
you know, really help them think through this and how they can make good choices and stuff. So
Mm.
actually, yeah, Andrea's so right on talking about, you know, bringing out the humanity everywhere. And the people that
Yes.
are helping and the people that are incarcerated and the people in the community. Yeah.
Mm,
Yeah, I think one of the points that we overlook or find that works with what even Andrea said and what he has said, and how do you bring out the humanity out of individuals and into hearts of individuals and bring the best out of them is when VJ or those type of people, and I've experienced too, many of those in putting in the context of also this whole peer pressure and this whole culture, even you can go to certain age, you walk in that neighborhood and enculturation is, and the culture is so powerful, you know, it becomes the rule of law just to walk in that neighborhood. And you think is the rule of law outside of the neighborhood is so powerful, right? Is the lack of these kids hearing an alternative voice.
mm, mm,
That's what it is. There's not enough positive alternative voices out there whispering things in their consciousness, you know, enough. And so when someone takes time to whisper in their ear for once, that kind of maybe start in their conscience that is probably craving goodness, is craving a change.
Mm.
wow. Very, very insightful comment. And you don't hear any other options.
Yeah.
You think, yeah, you're yeah, it's very interesting.
Mm.
Hmm.
All right, brothers and sisters, thank you so much. Anybody has any last words to say? We can close out. It's almost 3:00. It's always a pleasure and to have all supporting, and we've had some extraordinary people on that have touched the core of all of humanity, and I think we become that particular vehicle to help become that particular platform to get that out. And without a doubt, most and 90 or 99.9% of the people who do come on, they're equally impressed by our mindset and our heart set as well. So that speaks volume in itself. So we are a very powerful force, and it's just time to, how do we multiply that powerful force within the construct of humanity? And I think that, I'll go off script here, and those people in a live audience, you might not understand these are our own little slogans in our what we call the unificationist community, which is the community that is hosting this webinar and started by Mother Moon and Father Moon because of their concern with gun violence and violence in America, which extends outside of the world, is that many times our unification jargon would be that actually Cain does have a lot of the answers, but it's in raw form. And those people stand in that able position can help guide it in a way that it will make the final substantive and sustainable and measurable change for the sake of goodness. That's my conclusion.
Yeah, it's a good observation, because if we were able to do that, that would be a fulfillment of what happened in the garden, so that Cain would not have desired revenge, and Abel could have helped him to learn, oh, that's why my offering wasn't accepted. Let's try it next time.
Right.
Working together.
Yeah, put together.
Yeah. Reverend Oliver, were you going to hold a national meeting or convention this summer?
Yeah, that's what I've been talking to a few people that might be because of the time factor, maybe in July or August or something like that, just to have a national conference. I'd like to have that. There's so many people we can bring together. It's like when we have this little talks like this again, or have a rerun, and then it reminds me, wow, I even forgot about that guy. I have to re-listen to a whole bunch, and then I'm just like, wow, we could be matchmakers. Let's bring this person and this thing together. And I think that's what we're gonna do. We'll bring them all together, and I think that we'll create some really powerful juices, and people will start to come together. I think I need that point. I need to, and then we can make a powerful force and a powerful indent in this whole area of stopping the violence. I want to thank everybody. Thank you, Reverend Stoner, for always being here. Love your face and seeing you. And also Mary, thank you so much. Andrea, she's always in the background somewhere, but she's there, very, she has things that she's doing. And of course, Nani and all the others who come on religiously and has been helping. And also our live audience, those are people out there who are listening all the time as well. So God bless you. We'll see you next week, and have a wonderful week. And
thanks for leading the forefront. Appreciate it.
Thank you. Wonderful program. Thank you.
Do my best to thank you, Andrea. To our dear brother too, O'Connor.
John, yes, I'm going to give him a call.
Yeah, I didn't know that.
He's going to be moving in a month or two to his daughter's home in Virginia.
Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
Yeah, he's moving to Virginia. Ultimately.
So he'll come in this area. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that'll be good. Yeah, it's such a good family.
Yeah.
Thank you.
All right.
Thank you.
Thank
God
you.
bless.
God bless
Thank you.
everybody.
All right. God
See you
bless you.
next week.
Bye-bye.
Okay.